Well, it's about 1 minute before 12, so I'll say good morning. My name is Michael Bearer, and I'm the director of the Winthrop RockefellerCancer Institute. And it's a delight to welcome you all to the town hall. I don't think I've seen this auditorium quite so full, so thank you very much for coming. As you know, we're trying to do these town halls every 6 months, plus or minus. And so I would bring to your attention as we move forward with these, if you have items you'd like to have discussed or topics you'd like to talk about, please feel free to reach out to my executive assistant, Lauren Wagner, and we will consider putting it on the list. In addition, we are graced today by having our envoys who happen to have a meeting scheduled. And I said, come on into the town hall. Are the envoys here? Give a wave, give a wave. Come on. Yeah. Thank you for coming, and they serve an incredibly important role both in fundraising but also introducing what we do here to the community at large. We're going to have a tag team today rather than just hear me blabber on incessantly. Alan Tackett will talk a little bit about space, and Jonathan Laurier will talk about clinical services. And then they'll come back to me at the end for closing, and we should have time for lots of questions. So, okay. Next. Well, that's pretty pathetic. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so let's start with the a little description about NCI designation. As you know, that's really why we're doing a lot of this. And of course, under that umbrella, we anticipate that there'll be lots of components which will improve the cancer care for all Arkansans. So why is it important? Well, if you look at this map, all of the dark states have NCI designated cancer centers, and the light gray states do not. Now, some of them are up north and in the west, but there is a cohort there which includes Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, where there are no NCI designated cancer centers. And that means a lot, actually. I would argue that the level of cancer care probably isn't as high as it should be in those states, hence the reason that we're moving towards applying for NCI designation. How will this actually impact Arkansas? Well, I will say firsthand, I ran the cancer center at UAB prior to coming here. And in that role, I probably saw at least $3 to $4 million come through as what's called P30 supplements. These are requests from the NCI. They only go to NCI designated cancer centers. So you see the club, you need to get in. And the pay line is about 50%. Compare that to the present NCI pay line of 9%. This is low hanging fruit. We don't qualify for it, but we will if we become designated. We'll have, of course, a huge portfolio of novel therapeutic drugs in clinical trials, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. We should have a seat at the table with other cancer centers to help drive cancer research funding. And from the patient aspect, they obviously are very interested in clinical trials, those new and novel drugs. It does help insurance, third-party payments, and we hope eventually, since we're covering the entire state of Arkansas, to provide transportation for a lot of patients so that they come here or come to one of the network sites that Jonathan Laurier will talk about later on. We think locally this will create about 1,500 jobs over 5 years and bring in roughly $50 to $100 million. Now, how do you get NCI designation? I always show this cartoon because I think it's really quite handy. But in part, not completely, but in part, we need to convince NCI that we have accomplished the 6 essential characteristics. What are they? In order to have a cancer institute, you need space. Wow. But it needs to be first-class space. It needs to be efficiently utilized. And the Cancer Institute itself needs to be able to direct that space. We need organizational capabilities. What does that mean? We need to have a first-rate Cancer Institute administration. We have one here run by Amy Jo Jenkins. We need to be able to be nimble and shift and have experts in every element of cancer research in the Cancer Institute. We need transdisciplinary collaboration coordination. This is the hardest one, first to pronounce. Second of all, what does it mean? What it means is that we're not a silo. We can't be a cancer institute by itself. College of Public Health, PRI, they're out there. We don't care. We need to show that we interact with the entire university here, and preferably that we interact with other institutions beyond that, perhaps University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, the FDA organization, even transdisciplinary research within our researchers reaching out to MD Anderson, Oklahoma, other places. All of that is scored very positively. We obviously need a cancer focus. We're not doing heart disease. We're not doing neurologic problems. We're doing cancer. And so you'll hear me bang on the table on this. When you write your grants, even if it's not cancer, get cancer in the abstract, because that's the way it's scored. They'll look at it and there are keywords: cancer, tumor, malignancies. Please think of that as you're writing your grants. We need institutional commitment. What does that mean? That means that UAMS needs to demonstrate that they are committed to the Winthrop Rockefeller Cancer Institute. We have pretty good demonstration of that. As you know, we've had the marijuana tax, which I think UAMS can take credit for. Of course, the state legislature can also. That's provided about $70 million. We just recently negotiated a lump sum, $100 million, which is already here, and it's in a trust fund that I can see. So there's almost $200 million right there, and that doesn't include salaries. It doesn't include what it costs to build this building and other things. There's a pretty good track record of institutional commitment. And then finally, the center director needs to be competent. A little questionable there, but I'm working on that. Okay. So where are we? I had my colleague and friend, Bryant. Where is he? Bryant. Is he here? Yep. Yo, the man with the slides. He knows how to design these slides like nobody else. So this is the roadmap, and you can see we go from one end where we're just learning about designation, recruiting cancer center director. I came, build infrastructure, recruit and retain cancer researchers, and I'll show you the details on that. I think it's a great story. Assemble a external advisory board. We've done that, and they're up and running and functional. You see the little map there where we are. We're gonna have to change that sign, Brian. We need to put a roadster there. Okay. And then we negotiate with NCI, including our external advisory board, as to whether we're ready to go. You say, well, that's very different than granting. This is a different grant. If the NCI does not think we're ready, they will tell us, you're not ready. It's not going to go well. So we need to listen to them. And I'm having a meeting in the end of January, beginning of February, to discuss where we are right now with them. Finally, we submit the CCSG. That's the core grant. Takes about 4 to 6 months. There needs to be a site visit here. And then we find out if we were good enough to be designated. It's a complex process, but we're well on the way. So what are we doing in recruitment? You've seen some of these, but I'm really quite proud to say that we have recruited so many bright individuals in our researchers and clinical efforts that we've had to divide this up now into 4 pages, I think, 3 or 4 pages. So here's the first one. And you can see the individuals here. I like to point out, this is a diverse group. And what I mean by that, I mean professionally diverse. We've got people in pediatrics, pharmacy, biochem, bioinformatics, pathology, all over UAMS, which really helps us demonstrate we're transdisciplinary. Some are coming with or have been awarded K awards, which, as you know, is the sort of the most important transition grant with the gravitas that we want here. And we have 4 K awards listed there. This is the second set. And again, I point out that, again, very diverse epidemiology, internal medicine, all over the map. Health, behavior, and education, very good. In the lower right-hand corner is our most recent recruit, Young Zoon, who will be coming in January. He's coming from Yale, has been there for quite a few years. Actually spent a lot of time writing their CCSG grant, which is going to be a huge help for us. And he's coming in as the Associate Director of Population Science and Translational Science, will be a professor, and he is going to be in the College of Public Health. Dina Jones above is one of the other K Award winners. So again, just a wonderful collection of people. And I would point out that they occupy about 30,000 square feet of space and brought in 13.6 plus or minus a couple dollars, millions of dollars in research dollars. Physician recruitment has to occur in the same process as cancer research. You got the cancer researchers, but nobody's seeing the patients, doesn't work. You got to have people seeing the patients, nobody doing cancer research, doesn't work. You need to do both. And so with a lot of heavy lifting, I think we've done a great job here. You can see some of our recruits that started in 2022, and 3 of them listed there are in leadership positions. I'll bring out Sunny. You'll hear a little more about Sunny and Nusha. They're in our network. This is our network with a joint venture with Baptist Health. Jonathan will tell you more about that. I think it's a real opportunity for us to increase our footprint and bring in more patients. This is also a diverse group from a professional standpoint. You can see you've got surgical oncology, palliative care is there, radiation oncology, hem-onc, across the entire map. Starting in 2023 and in 2024 is another set of individuals listed here. And again, across hem-onc, gyn-onc, transplant, very broad group of individuals with expertises. Some in leadership. Monique Spillman is the division chief for gynecologic oncology. We're very lucky to have her. And if I'll steer you to the lower right-hand corner, Dr. Kunthar, coming in February 2024. She was here originally. She left. She realized how wonderful it was here, and she came back. And then Dr. Baltz in the lower right-hand corner, one of our stellar fellows who's decided he wants to stay here and will probably focus on transplant. So we're very lucky to have him. Where are we going for recruitment? Well, we're not finished yet. And we have a very serious approach to look for specifically physician scientists. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we've got a lot of scientists and we've got some physicians, but physician scientists are a rare breed. These are the people who might see patients 20% of the time, 30% of the time, but the other 70% are going to have an active lab. They're hard to come by. They're usually MD, PhDs, they don't have to be. But we've got the resources, I think, to do a serious recruitment on this. So for breast cancer, we're looking for a translational or basic science researcher. There are endowed chairs available, and there are endowed research programs for breast. The second recruit is myeloma, leukemia, lymphoma, also translational basic science researcher. Same deal. We have at least one very large endowed chair that's unoccupied with a lot of resources. As you know, we have a spectacular myeloma program. We've got the state's only transplant service. So there's a real opportunity there, I think, to bolster the science. We're recruiting with the College of Pharmacy a cancer researcher, and we're well underway in that. And I've identified actually 3 candidates, one of which has substantial NCI funding. So we're excited about that. And then finally, when Dr. Zhu comes in, he will have resources to recruit 2 additional individuals for the College of Public Health focused on cancer epidemiology. So we're beginning to sort of form a critical mass in cancer epidemiology, which we really haven't had in the past. Okay, all right. With that, I'm going to lateral over to Dr. Tackett, who's spending his life managing research space and renovations and done a spectacular job.
All right. It's a pleasure to see everyone today. Thanks for attending. So I get to present on the very exciting topic of space. So I'm going to overview what kind of space we have available to us, but also some renovations that have been going on in the past couple of years, just to show you a little bit of where we've been investing some of this money that we've received from marijuana tax, as well as other philanthropy sources. And I only have 2 slides, but it'll probably still take me 10 minutes to get through 2 slides. So this is just an overview of space. So one of the essential characteristics of the 6 is physical space. And this is a picture of the towers. Many of us know what they look like, obviously. We're in the Walker Tower, which is on the left up there, and then the Winthrop Rockefeller Tower, which is on your right, which we refer to the North and the South Towers, respectively. I think many of us have had the opportunity to visit other universities and other cancer centers. This is world class. This is about as good as it gets. And, I've had the luxury of seeing many different places. And I think this is as good as anywhere out there. There are many NCI designated, even comprehensive centers that don't have their own dedicated space to house cancer research and the clinics. So we're, very fortunate to have such state-of-the-art space. So within these two towers, this is kind of the home base for the Cancer Institute, although we reach out into other areas on this campus and on other campuses. We have, and again, I'm talking about research space only, about 62,000 square feet of wet lab space and about 22,000 square feet of office space. And that spans across 7 floors across both towers. That's about 33% of the physical space within these two towers. So it's a very significant allocation of space for researchers. But again, as I mentioned before, not only are we within these two towers, this does serve as our home base and a lot of the administrative efforts, but our research spans across this campus. Certainly, if you go into the biomed buildings, we have a footprint over there for research, College of Public Health. There's just various avenues, various locations on this campus where we reach out to. We also have members of the Arkansas Children's Hospital campus at the Arkansas Children's Research Institute, ACRI. So we support researchers that are doing pediatric oncology that have their laboratories in that space. And we also support those at the VA hospital and about another 50,000 square feet of space across those other locations outside of these two towers. So you're well north of 100,000 square feet of space dedicated to cancer research here in Central Arkansas. So within our towers, one of the things I do is have to play the bad guy and oversee a space policy. Everybody's in pretty good compliance with that, so they're mostly on the nice list for this time of the year. But we allocate space, about 500 square feet of space per RPG equivalent. That's a research project grant or an R01. And so this is a 5-year grant that might be worth $1 to $2 million. So that amount of extramural funding that's cancer relevant buys you about 500 square feet of space. So we do an annual space audit. We just completed that, so we can kind of keep an eye on investigators, their space allocations and their funding. And so currently, when we kind of distill that down, we could still recruit 5 or 10 investigators at this time and be able to fit them in space, available space. And if we did enact or fully enact the space policy, we could get up to 20 investigators within the two towers. So with that being said, Dr. Beer highlighted, efforts we have for recruiting new investigators. We can certainly accommodate those individuals. And we try to position people into what we call scientific neighborhoods, aligning people with similar interests into similar locations on floors. So the second slide of 2 slides has about 10 different boxes that are going to pop up. So this is highlighting research renovations. And I really wanted to spend some time on this to really show you what we're doing with funding to really take what we have that's a great research infrastructure, but kind of take it to the next level and do strategic investments that we hope will pay off over time and yield a return on investment with our funding. So what you see here on the left side is Walker Tower. On the right side is the Winthrop Rockefeller Cancer Institute North Tower, which is in green are all the research floors. Highlighted in blue are the clinical floors, and then the administrative floors are in yellow. And then Walton Auditorium, as you can see, is the 10th floor of the Walker Tower where you're sitting right now. So the first investment I want to go into happened over the course of about the last year. And this was a strategic investment into structural biology. And so this happened on the 9th floor Walker Tower, immediately below where you're sitting right now. And this is across about 2,500 square feet of space where walls were taken down, rooms were reconfigured, and it was really built to house an expansion in structural biology. This is around an $8, maybe $10 million investment of funds from us. And that included startup packages as well as equipment and infrastructure for doing structural biology. And in particular, we're looking to grow in the areas of X-ray crystallography, but more importantly, cryo-electron microscopy. And these are high-resolution ways to image proteins, protein complexes, in drugs like cancer therapeutics bound to protein complexes, so you can better understand how drugs work and how to engineer them in such a way to have higher efficacy in patients. So key to this was the recruitment of 3 individuals, and these were shown on the slides that Dr. Beer showed, Drs. Ennemar, Jamson, and Moldenau. I'm not sure if they're here with us today, but they were instrumental in really setting the framework for us to expand into structural biology. And historically, the Department of Biochemistry has had interest in this space. Very strong in protein biochemistry, and this is the complement of this. Now we can do the functional studies. We actually image these proteins in action with these cancer therapeutics. So we've invested $8 to $10 million into that space, and so currently we have 2 grants out that are a direct function of this investment. First is approximately $4 million grant out to the National Science Foundation, and that's to buy a new cryo-EM microscope. It'll be one of the first in the region. It's going to be located here on campus, and this will take us to really the next level for these types of studies. And then also there's an $11 million COBRA grant. These are Centers of Biomedical Research Excellence. This is a cancer-focused one that's focused on structural biology and molecular interactions in cancer. Dr. Robert Ove in biochemistry is the PI of that, and that grant is very close to being funded. Anticipate a notice of award any day now. So we got $15 million worth of grants out there from an $8 million investment. This is what I anticipate in the next couple of months to be a 2-fold return on investment. Also on the 9th floor, this is in process. We're developing a drug screening core facility or shared resource. We're starting small, but it's going to be built for expansion. It's going to be about 250 square feet, about $1 million investment. And what this is going to house is compound libraries, so 30, 50,000 small molecules that we can screen in a high throughput manner for efficacy in patients. So this is something that'll be very much needed, in particular in support of our cancer therapeutics program. So that's currently being built out. A lot of robotics, a lot of automation, a lot of high throughput drug small molecule screening. If you go on down in Walker Tower on the 4th floor, we completed a relocation and a renovation for the clinical trials operation. This is moving into about 500 square feet of space. It's probably 50,000 plus or minus 10 or 20,000 in one direction. Moving them down basically in proximity to the tissue bank to enable their operation to work more effectively and efficiently. And if you move down one more floor, again, we've hit every floor in this tower with some type of renovation. The 3rd floor, we have some open lab spaces there, about 3,000 square feet of lab space. We're going to invest about $50,000. We're going to really just bring those kind of up to state of the art, paint, renovation, that type of stuff. And that's going to support our continued recruitment and growth. Again, this is some of the space that I mentioned we have to move people into. So it'll be just renovated and just be state of the art in a short manner of time. If you move over to the Rockefeller Tower, the North Tower, the 9th floor, the proteomics resource, we're in the process of launching an expansion of about 2,500 square feet. This will be about $1 million investment. And this supports the only NIH-funded national resource ever in the state of Arkansas. So it's a very unique operation. I think last year we processed 10,000 samples from every state in the United States. So this has national visibility, certainly for cancer, but in many other diseases also. And not within our towers proper, we've also invested into campus efforts, certainly those efforts that have cancer application. But just in general, we've also kind of vested into certain things that help research across the entire campus. A great example is the vivarium expansion. This is happening on the Biomed Building 1, the bottom floor. That whole floor is going to be renovated to house animal models. Certainly many of those will be for cancer research, but many of them will not be for cancer research. This is funded in large part by a NIH construction grant, a CO6 grant to Dan Both. This is about an $8 million grant. We contributed $2 million on top of that to complete the build out on the area. And so it's this is in addition to, building out for animal research, it also provides an expansion for radiation biology shared resource. So within the Cancer Institute, Dr. Burma oversees radiation biology core, animal imaging, radiation, and this is going to give a physical home to co-localize all those instruments into a one-stop shop for radiation biology. I'll highlight two things too. This was brought up before. We are actively recruiting and placing people into labs. The most recent person we placed in a lab was Sean Taverna. This is highlighted on one of the slides. He comes to us from Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. He does cancer epigenetics, but he's also incoming dean of the graduate school, taking over from Bobby McGee. Expertise in training grants and certainly in cancer epigenetics. And as also was mentioned before, the next person on their way in is Dr. Zhu. This is again a recruit from Yale in cancer epidemiology, which was touched on before. And this is just really highlights. We've built our infrastructure, and what we've done over the past few years is built our reputation to enable us to recruit from some of the best places in the world, Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, Yale, and bringing those people in here to help us reach the next level 3 NCI designation. So with that, that's my last slide, and I'll hand it back over to Dr. Beer.
Thank you, Alan. And Alan has done a terrific job, and he is very affectionately now known as the spaceman. Okay. Any complaints on space, send them to Alan. And with that, Jonathan Laurier will come up as our medical director of the Cancer Service Line and talk about clinical services. Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. So with respect to the clinical services and in terms of space, this is just kind of relatively new space, in addition to all the clinics that are housed within the Walker Tower. So the breast center is on the 3rd floor in the North Tower, very beautiful state-of-the-art center where all patients with breast cancer-related issues go for imaging and other follow-up there. So that's a very beautiful area. And then the infusion centers. So there's 2 kind of relatively new infusion centers, Infusion B on the 6th floor, and then Infusion A on the 4th floor, which, kind of have about approximately 50 pods each. And then within Infusion B, it's also the phase 1 unit. I don't know if Dr. Beer is going to talk about that one. Yeah. So yeah, this is all kind of relatively brand new space. And then on the 7th floor of the North Tower is, maybe we moved in about a year ago, surgical oncology and head and neck oncology occupies that space, clinics, I mean. It's very beautiful. Patients are always saying how beautiful that space is. So that is the new kind of spaces that we have. And then in terms of medical oncology clinical structure, so Dr. Govin is the division director, and then under him are the 3 sections. Dr. Van Ree kind of occupies the myeloma, is the section head of myeloma. And then Dr. Tu is the section head of solid tumors. And Dr. Veraputran, he's now known as Dr. Kumaran. So he's changed his name. So Muthu Kumaran is the section head for liquid malignancies, like, lymphomas and leukemias. And he also directs the CAR T cell therapy, which is the only transplant program in the state of Arkansas. We've had new surgeons this year. Actually, Dr. Bigarella is going to start in the upcoming year. He will join our urology oncology group. He's currently finishing up his fellowship in Wisconsin, and he's extremely well trained. He was fully trained in Brazil, and then he's now doing an extra fellowship. So he'll be a great addition. Dr. Tom Kang joined our colorectal team in September. and he's already off to a great start, doing great work. And Dr. Nick Tinquist trained here. He went to medical school here, did surgery residency here. He was our administrative chief resident, went to Nashville, for thoracic oncology training, and he just came back, and he's a great addition to our already great team that we have here led by Dr. Matt Steliger. We are still kind of in the process of recruiting others. So as most of you may know, Dr. Jennings, who was our dermatology oncology surgeon, left. And so we're trying to replace him. And then as Dr. Biera mentioned, we're also trying to get another breast surgical oncologist who's a translational researcher or a lab-based kind of a combined clinical and lab-based person. Dr. Biera mentioned the network with Baptist. So currently we have 2 sites, one at North Little Rock, and that opened in August of 2022. And then the one at Big Baptist here opened in April. And in terms of numbers, they're seeing on average about 16 new patients per month. The infusion room visits are about 186 per month if we look at January to June. And then it's kind of ballooned to over 300 visits per month if we look at July to November. So that's growing for North Little Rock. And then in Little Rock, we just opened, about 6 months ago. We're seeing about 44 new patients per month and about 145 visits since August. So the network is growing. I think once these 2 sites mature, we will move to other sites in the state. And so this is a strong relationship that we have with Baptist, and using their very wide network, I think we can reach the entire state, both with the research aspect as well as with the clinical aspect. And then, as we all know, the new Radiation Oncology Center opened, just a few months ago, and the Proton Center opened a little later. But just over the last 3 months, we can see how the numbers have increased. So in terms of average number of patients, from average of 48 to 69 between September and November. And then in terms of the number of treatments for photon, that's the regular radiation, outside of proton, which is the new addition, anywhere from 961 to over 1,000 treatments, from September to November. And then when we look at the proton, we just started in September, 74 in September to 221. And actually, there's a long wait list of patients waiting to be treated who are kind of in the continuum of their treatment. So I think very soon we will have to run 2 shifts in radiation oncology because of the volume. And I think just the fact that we have the Proton Center is a great recruiting tool for patients to come to UMS. So I think we have a very strong clinical service kind of going. I think the last time Dr. Biera mentioned the neurofibromatosis clinic, which was established through a grant. So approximately 130 patients have been seen in the clinic with neurofibromatosis 1, and then other forms of, schwannomatosis. I know all these are big words, but these are neurologic conditions. Several patients have been enrolled on clinical trials. So 11 were enrolled in a phase 2 trial. And then there's an additional clinical trial to investigate mitochondrial dysfunction in these patients with neurofibromatosis. And then there's a community awareness program which has been established. We have medical students, Dr. Sellers from Arkansas Children's, and then Dr. Atchison, who's an audiologist, and other researchers who are interacting with these patients who have lifelong, needs. And I think this is a great clinic, which is headed by Dr. Erica Horta Santos. So I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm going to run through some final slides here a little bit fast. Some of them you've seen components of, because I want to leave enough time for questions. So as you know, one of the huge components of a functional cancer center is clinical trial activity. So we've made huge progress in reorganizing the clinical trial office. It was over in the service line. It's now in the Cancer Institute. We've done a lot of aggressive hiring. You can see the team there on the right. This is what you need if you really want to serve the community with clinical trials. And where I am most proud of what's on the left, which is you're looking at the accrual over a number of years. It's going in the right direction. And this year we're projecting we're going to get close to 130. I keep telling Matt Kovac it should be 150, but he understands that. And the top enrolling disease sites are brain, GU, myeloma, which is a rare tumor. They do a terrific job in GYN. And I think what the NCI will be particularly interested in, 20% are coming from underserved minorities. We hope to get that up to maybe 25% or 30%. And 40% are patients who live in rural areas, which is the way in which we serve our community. Now, in addition to clinical trial activity, we also have community outreach and engagement. I'm not going to go through all of this, but suffice it to say, we are this close to finishing our search for an associate director for this position, which is really the missing piece. Shalonda Wilson is the executive director. Beverly Johnson Wells is the associate director. They're in place. The navigator system is now in place. So I think we're in pretty good progress. Despite not having a AD in that position. But again, I hope that by the next time I have a town hall meeting, that will all be finished. Cancer prevention and control has been sort of broken off, and we're lucky to have Pebbles Fagan as the associate director. Pebbles is internationally known for conducting cutting-edge research focused on the horrific problem of tobacco addiction. And please remember, the #1 killer in the state of Arkansas from a cancer standpoint is lung cancer, and it's almost all tobacco related. Head and neck is right behind it, also tobacco related. So this is really important. This is going to, I think, suffice for our cancer prevention. It is primary prevention, and we have a terrific team. We also have cancer services, tobacco cessation services by Pat and Claudia. They've been here and working very hard for a long period of time, and we're trying to support them with that effort. Cancer research, training, and education. We're lucky enough to have Tom Kelly take over the associate director. You can see here, it's a complicated slide. The take-home message is the right side, which is the current projects. He does everything from Cancer Institute Forum, the Grand Rounds, science fairs, pathway programs, travel grants. He established this whole program for travel grants, Cancer Summer Webinar, and a VIP partnership. And the reason we do that is because the NCI expects us to do what's in the center of the slide, which is we need to train the next generation of cancer researchers, starting at K to 12. K to 12. I can't remember those days, for God's sake. Undergraduate, graduate, postdoc, and junior faculty. And so he's really created a wonderful structure here. We're well on our way, and I think we'll score very well from this angle. Okay, infrastructure, and I'm finishing up. You should know, I think I mentioned this last time, that we were lucky enough to have Senator Bozeman's support, and we were able to get into the omnibus budget to the tune of about $11 million. That $11 million will serve several projects. One is a renovation and installation of MRI specifically for cancer patients in the old Gamma Knight suite. That's on the top, 1.7 million. Another mammo van, this will be our third mammo van for 1.7 million. We expect delivery next year on that. And then finally, what I'm most excited about is we have $7 million to renovate the UAMS regional site in Jonesboro, which is smack in the middle of the Mississippi Delta, easily identifiable as an underserved population. They have a great clinic up there. They do no cancer. So we need to buy some money up there, low-dose CT scans for lung cancer screening. We need education, prevention, all those components, and maybe even a small infusion center so that the individuals in that area don't have to go to West Memphis and risk getting shot. It's an editorial comment. And they don't have to come to Little Rock because it's pretty far away. So we will have an infusion center there, sort of a hub and spoke model. Cancer, I'm going to leave you with Cancer Institute events. Get your pens out, okay? First one already completed. It's done. That's their Gala for Life, but I'm very proud to say that it raised over $1 million, including almost $120,000 for a 1959 Bentley. Yes, I put in some of the raffle and I didn't get it. The whole thing was rigged. 227,000 in expenses, 22,000 under budget. Congratulations, Judy. Where are you? Judy? Yo, nice job. Okay. So we netted 813,000. Combine that with the walk, which I'm not going to really talk about the numbers. We're probably raising between 1 and 1.5 million from those events. Plus it's branding us, which is what's really important. Speaking of the walk, write it down. I don't see anybody writing anything down, okay? This is May 4th, 2024, upcoming event. Be part of the Cure Walk. Be a lot of fun. We don't charge a lot of money. It's really for survivors and lots of people, so we'd love to see you there. Day at the Races, coming up in Oaklawn, March 7th, 2024, a lot of fun. Go down there, see the horse racing. I'm not a big gambler, so I didn't do much, but it was fun. And then finally bring to your attention Robert A. Wynn, who is the Cancer Center Director at the VCU Massey Cancer Center. It's in Virginia. He's going to be here January 17th. Please put it on your calendar for a special grand rounds focused on DEI leadership. And during that, we will talk about and present the Eddie Reed Awards. Now, Eddie is was an interesting guy. I knew him for years. I was in fellowship with him. He was a great guy. Did a lot of different jobs, including he was at the CDC for a long time and unfortunately passed away way too young. But we decided he was born and bred right here in Arkansas, went to Yale, I believe, for undergraduate. So he just was a wonderful person. So we've created this Eddie Reed Awards, which will, you can see on the left side, which will go to Arkansas Research Science Fairs. It'll be also present at UAMS Excellence in Mentoring Award, Research Day Award, and then also at the Rockefeller Cancer Retreat. So this is a way to honor him and his family at the same time giving out awards to the up and coming researchers. Other quick announcements. We always like to brag about people here. The group that went to ASH. ASH was just like a couple days ago and presented. We had a great representation. These are presentations at that organization, and we really encourage academic travel. Despite what people say about the finances of this place, we will not survive unless you travel, present, and tell people how great UAMS is. All right, there you go. If you need money, talk to Alan. And then finally, I showed this last time. I want you to show it again because we like to brag about our KL2 awardees. They're doing a great job, and we hope to award more of those in the future. And with that, open for questions, and we'll have a panel so you can ask questions about clinical services, space, anything else. We're here for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bear, Dr. Tackett, Dr. Laria for excellent presentations, good, feel good slides. So coming to the basics, so we, on the clinical side, and Dr. Laria can probably answer that, we went from about 2% on clinical trials to about 5% in 4 years. You have to go to about 10% as a minimum requirement. So if it takes another 4 years, that would be a long time. My second question is the NCI, as you mentioned in your slide, the NCI direct funding requirement is somewhere around 10 million, although the last one that was funded at University of Florida was 13.2 million. We are shy of 5 million. How are we going to get to 10 million? Thank you.
Yeah. So for the first question, we expect to go to 250 next year. So we'll be at the number that we need to be at. I think the rate limiting step on that, Omar, was partly the organizational structure was over in the service line, it just didn't work. And then the hiring of the staff and then opened up. Our rate limiting step right now isn't the staff. It's convincing investigators to put patients on trial. The culture around here has not been what I'm used to in other institutions. So we're slowly changing that. But I think by next year, I'm pushing hard. The other thing is, what I didn't discuss a lot is that Highlands is on board. We think we can get 50 accruals from Highland alone. The VA is on board. I don't want to go into that. That's a toughie, but they're on board. And then at some point, our joint venture with Baptist, we're going to start encouraging those investigators who are our faculty, send them over. I don't really see a point of establishing a separate clinical trial operation in Little Rock. Kind of doesn't make sense. The second question is a good one. So, we've actually had a couple of major discussions about this. I went to the Board of Trustees to present on this because there was a concern by it. I think to be fair, our number isn't quite what some people have been reporting. We're probably closer to 7 to maybe 9 million, particularly if you include the COBRA that's coming in. That's going to be 2 million a year. And we've had a couple of R01s. And what's missing in those calculations, if you go on Reporter, you could see the NCI grants, but you can't see the NIH grants that have 50% cancer. I mean, it's not granular enough. So there's more, a little more, it's a long window of saying there's more money there than we think. But the bottom line is you're right. We probably need to be at about 12 to 13 million to avoid the Florida issue. Yeah. The bar ain't going, the bar keeps going up. Okay, other questions? And again, if there's any shortage of money, it's Alan's fault. Questions? Come on. Oh, you just came for the meal? Pebbles, you're back there. Yeah.
And help serious support that we currently don't have. Is there a way for us to bring a team of people together to start preparing to apply for that support? So it got clear with BSA, so we know the RFA is coming out. But scores look really good for a cell cancer designation. Kind of fits right up our alley. They allow some cost programmatic work with it. What can you do?
Yeah.
Get ready for that.
It's a great question. So oddly enough, when I was at UAB, we approached NCI at the time to say, could we put in a score specifically for health disparities? Because they had a pretty good operation down there for health disparities, much more mature than ours. At that time, NCI wasn't quite up to the task, so it's taken them a little while. I think it's a great issue, and all I can say is to throw it back at you. You and I need to sit down and talk, and if we can identify the players and see if we have critical mass. I don't know the answer to it. You probably know better than I, but I'm very supportive of it, for sure. I mean, if there's ever a state for which that's the population with lots of health disparities, and we could walk into that setting and help solve it, that's what we should be doing. Okay. Yeah. More questions? Matt, how many patients you gonna have on trial next year? 250, okay. You all heard it, 250, okay? Welcome back. Okay. Any other questions? Well, I'll give you back 10 minutes then. Thank you for coming very much. Appreciate it.